But yeah, so capital punishment, yeah, it's not going to work. It's not ever going to work. We could execute, be as ruthless and cruel as, some say was the Muslims are, or some communist, socialist, totalitarian states. They just, if your problem, you don't even get any due process rights. Yeah, you have a right to death by attrition, or the sweet blessing of a firing squad, or a hanging. But that's where this all came from. Is Ruby Gardner had posted a wanted poster from Oregon for this child molester. Now, I don't know if this guy is convicted, or if these are allegations, or I'm not really sure. I didn't really read the wanted poster that much. But Ruby, she said that that the rapist should be hung, and no doubt that somebody that steals should be dealt with severely, or they shouldn't, that kind of behavior is very destructive, and I think it's really destructive, or it's the most destructive, of course, on the victim. But I don't think age has anything to do with it. So, having special charges or penalties for being a child molester is, I think that's counterproductive, because I think all life is equal, and just because, like in the case of murder, if you go out and murder a law enforcement officer, that like doubles the penalty, and automatically gives you a all these special penalties and stuff like that, and that lessens when you go out and say that this group of people, or this is different than a full-grown man or something. That's a fallacy, because any violence that's perpetrated against someone it's going to be felt throughout the society, and especially like with men, especially white men, because we used to be the shit, but now we ain't shit, single family parents, and all this is, it's the way the cookie crumbles, but that is all because, society wants it to be that way, because, the elite started pushing a women's suffrage agenda right along with the Federal Reserve, the World War I, and many of the social problems that we still suffer from today. Man, I missed the turnoff. Shit, I missed the Klamath River turnoff. So I'm almost to Wairika now. Ha ha ha. Well, it's easy to do, but yeah, so I don't see any social benefit to granting the state a monopoly on being able to execute people. I mean, there's no redeeming qualities in this practice. I mean, and maybe I'm being ignorant, but here in California, we have a death penalty. It's still on the books, and I think it's been 30 years since they fired up the gas chamber at San Quentin, and murdered somebody. And that's one thing, from a philosophical point of view, and kind of from a spiritual point of view as well. And actually, that's how I came about this real revelation, was through spiritual studying and meditation and stuff, and relying upon the justice, the criminal justice system to deliver justice to me, because the murderer, Katie's murderer, is still at large. The case was never solved, and that's the way it will, I guess, remain. I know if I knew who it was, at one point, I really delighted in wanting to torture or treat that person the way they treated my daughter. And I would have had no qualms about kidnapping them and basically torturing them until he begged me to end his suffering. But I really delighted in that kind of sadistic retribution, that would somehow rejuvenate my soul and bring me some kind of closure to the loss of Katie. But like I said, through a lot of study, I realized that murderer is really ill. And I'm not saying that in a condescending note, because you know what, I'm ill too. The whole loss and how I was treated, when I was still in the Navy and stuff. It's shit I don't care to talk about most of the time. Hey, we got a grocery outlet in fucking Wairika. Right on. Fuck yeah, I didn't know that. That's the old Ray's Food, which has been vacant for like I don't know, maybe almost like a year or something. Maybe a couple of years, shit. But yeah, now we got a grocery outlet. Right the fuck on, man. Right the fuck on. Okay, so let's get going the correct direction. Drive 20 miles, I don't need to. But yeah, let's look at it here. 383. When I left Connor Lock in a Happy Camp was $4 and $4.03.09. So $4.04 a gallon. capital punishment and the whole prison mentality is really ineffective, and it's really counterproductive. I think there are many things we could do that would actually be deterrence, because capital punishment is not a deterrence. If you're ill and you think that doing violent things is good and desirable, I wonder about what kind of environment you grew up in. You probably grew up in an abused environment. You probably didn't have a steady relationship with your parents. Maybe you were separated from your family. You're an orphan or something. I don't know, all these different social environmental situations or conditions, I should say, are they have an effect on person, and through the efforts or influences of other people, it can be good or bad, because like what I suffer from, post-traumatic stress disorder. It's a real weird affliction, For many years, I didn't even care to acknowledge that I was ill, So, and that's the problem with the murderer, or maybe they do realize that they're a monster, but they're able to hide in the bushes and and be a monster, a real threat, doing real harm to society, So what happens to the victim, be it murder or because the victim, of course, in a murder, they're not going to live to have any stress or anything that we could do about it or anything, which is really unfortunate. Life is precious and it's priceless, and it doesn't matter if we're talking about a 7-year-old girl or a 77-year-old man. Each of their lives are equally necessary for the chain of life, for us, for our interconnected, interdependent existence. So, don't think that I'm some kind of liberal, new age kind of thing, touchy-feely. We're just going to let these guys off without any punishment or some kind of something, but like I said, like the thing with rapists, especially child molesters, if a child molester goes to prison, they're usually bitched out, man. The other prisoners do not appreciate that crime. So, when you are a child molester and you're in prison, you have to hide. You can't be honest. You lie and say that you're in there for drugs or robbery or murder or something. You make something up. You don't tell a prisoner that you're a fellow prisoner that you're a child, a baby raper, because there's a whole bunch of guys in there. They're control freaks. They ain't got nothing better to do, and they just punk out your ass all day and all night long. So, but that's a situation which most people think, oh gosh, man, it's the women, women getting raped. That's just a deplorable situation. But actually, men suffer from rape. They're victims of rape more often than women, because there are more men in prison than women. And like I said, this culture of punking out the bitches, so that's a real deal, man. You don't want to drop the fucking soap in the fucking shower, because you'll need to grab onto your ankles and pray that they let you go. And and I'm not saying that I don't know, but like that's a thing, So when so that's one thing that you got to consider, that in our current system, there's kind of that vigilante aspect going on, and so what would be a problem, or I should say, what would be some positive things that we could do to a ill individual that has a undesirable behavior or activity, which is a crime, because they're inflicting pain and upon a person without their consent. So obviously we don't want people to be stealing. So is the answer to try to put chastity belts on everybody and pecker cages on the sick fuckers so they can't fuck? I don't know, and I think that if we just made the sharing of history and such, made that more available, which is pretty much what's happening, with social media and such. You're able to Google somebody, and like with the service I got with Spokeo, you can, or no, it was an app on Facebook that you can check out the genuineness of your friends to make sure they're not bots or spammers or something. Anyway, yeah, freaking capital punishment. So what is it that we should do to these guys? I mean, on a community type basis. I mean, I'm not one for the real ID card requirements that require a biometric identification component, be it DNA, retina scan, or fingerprint. I guess recognition, I guess, would fall into that, because that's a biometric. But having that knowledge publicly available, freely available for anyone to see, so let's say you were the victim of a rape, and from the semen collected from your post trauma examination, there was this semen sample that was collected, and because of the database, we know exactly who it is. There's no hiding. Would this database be mandatory? No, it doesn't have to be mandatory. We don't need an authority to tell us that participation in a program or something like that is beneficial. It's just when you start gathering data like that, and you make it a privilege to have access to that data, then that's where you start seeing corruption and abuse of that information, because it's not in a transparent environment where it's just common knowledge. Okay, you want to go look up so and so. Okay, so you just pull up their DRO record, and it's all right there. But yeah, the guy's got freaking dandruff and had to clap once, and whatever. That's all out there. There's no fee to be paid. If you want a copy, or you want access to your record, it's right there. It's the same record that everybody else has access to, and and it's there. And like I said, that information should be freely available, and there's because it's like those guys that say that just letting the government have excessive surveillance on us, that's no big deal. They're protecting us from terrorism and these violent malcontents that they hate our freedom, so we're going to give up our freedom for some perceived security, so we can be safe from the horrible terrorists. Do you realize that I've got more chance of a deer killing me than any kind of Islamic terrorist or anything like that? Do you realize that? There's more likely a doe and her fawn to jump off the rock mountain into the road here, and I cream them, and they come through the windshield, and we meet a unplanned intersection in our lives, But we're made to believe that we have to give up our freedom to enjoy security, and that's just not true. And likewise, like I said, the perception that if we keep these secrets, or that the government is able to collect all this data on us and sift it later through who knows what kind of criteria, and something that seems quite innocent today could become the next terrorist trend, which gives reason for the state to come in and relieve you of your property, just because the state is good. Yeah, right. But so I think that the DRO keeping track on people, their criminal record, their everything that they do in life, because it's all pretty relative and important, and not just because they may be a convicted criminal, but we need to know what happened after that too, because lots of people actually learn from their mistakes, and they have an epiphany, they have a learning experience that is only possible through being put in prison. So it turns out being a positive experience, but not because there was fear of going to prison, or there was fear of capital punishment being inflicted on them, but because it doesn't make sense. It's not a worthwhile venture, or because like I said, because most of these people, these murderers, rapists and stuff, they're out there stealing that precious commodity, life, and your gonads, your procreation equipment. These are some of the most sacred things, So people that have, like I said, they've been damaged, through their upbringing. It doesn't make sense to me to not treat them, or try to treat them, because let's face it, man, there's some people out there that are they're monsters, man. They need to be fucking locked up. Or there's some fucking freaks out there that are so freaked, they ask to be locked up, because they know what kind of monsters they are. So why couldn't we have communities where these undesirables are encouraged to live? I'm not saying they have to live, and I'm not saying they have to register or anything, but like the like you do today. You know, if you're a sex offender, you have to register with the Megan's Law thing or something, right? And I think that's a bad deal, man, because I knew there was a person down the street that was a registered sex offender, like 4 or 5 houses down the street from where Bella lives in Columbus, Ohio, and I don't know, what I just found disturbing was that everybody kind of just like accepted it, you know. Oh, that's the fucking that's the baby raper there, and I don't know, it really disturbed me, you know. I would rather have not known, you know, because that's just too close, man. And anyway, so you know, there, you know, and like I said, the information sharing, that's kind of a double edge, but you know, it should be out there and available, so you could obtain it and find out, you know, the background on your neighbor, or you know, a potential employee, or your babysitter, or you know, fucking some guy that you just, you know, see on social media. Oh, I wonder what that guy's all about, you know. But yeah, we can't cast premature judgment, because an amazing amount of capital cases, because you know, the public defender isn't encouraged to be vigorous in protecting the murderer's rights. You know, oftentimes defendants get a bad, you know, a bad trial, and upon you know, revealing new evidence or whatever, you know, it's very common, you know. So it would just, you know, with the cost of capital punishment, it just makes no sense to think that, yeah, it's effective. You know, we got like who knows how many prisoners on death row, and each one of them costs like more than $1 million, man. You know, depending on how long they've been on death row, and how many stays of execution they've attempted, writs of habeas corpus, etc., etc. Which there's no doubt that the defendant should not have to relinquish his right to due process until, you know, he's terminated. But it costs a lot, because, you know, we have these prison house lawyers that are able to, you know, study the law at their leisure, and the you know, prosecutor has to or does spend a lot of resources on you know, on these appeal cases, and sometimes just on a murder trial itself. You know, shit, man. Nasty cases. I mean, yeah, it's not unusual for it to be six figures, high six figures, you know, for a couple month trial, you know, hung juries, and, you know, and maybe, you know, you're on your third appeal or something like that. The legal cost is tremendous, you know, and the people are not getting any value for that, you know. So well, why don't we give them all a stay of execution? And if the individual would like to, participate in, like I hear again, we want to encourage voluntary participation. We want that person to want to go to therapy. So, not because, the court or the judge demands that they go to counseling or whatever, but because the person, especially when we're talking like a social sense, where we can totally ostracize a person, with their biometric data. We can totally, because it's coming, the wireless or electronic money and stuff like that. You're going to have the mark of the beast to buy or sell. So, the system could monitor people, and if they're doing something that they're not supposed to be doing, because maybe because they refuse to go to counseling and such. There's a general banish order on the guy. So, if the person goes into, a store, especially a store that does not accept him, they know that he's, a child rapist or whatever, and so they choose. So people have a choice of association. So if you are a child rapist, then you should associate with child rapists. Those should be your peers. So until you want to change your peers, because if we know you're a child rapist, well, you're not going to come over to my house and hang out with my daughter, because you have a history of baby raping. So, like I said, if society was set up, because the Quakers used to do this, or no, was it the Amish? No, the Amish do this. Yeah. They don't put people in prison. Well, I guess, the Quakers, the stockade, putting your hands and head in the stockade, out in town square. That was a common punishment. They didn't throw you in jail per se, but they might have put you in the stockade out there in the town square, so everybody could see you for a couple days, and that's pretty embarrassing, You're out there in display, and people are going to come up and ask, well, what'd you do this time, George? Oh, I was just drinking, and I fell asleep, and blah, 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 whatever, So, there's accountability there, you know what I'm saying? It's not a big mystery. The person, the criminal, or the person that is doing the undesirable behavior, they have to acknowledge it, and like I said, and the people in the community are aware of this. So you're not giving aid and comfort to a baby raper, because undoubtedly we are, because it is a thing that people try to hide, and some people are able to hide their entire lives. That, like I said, that's an information sharing thing that I think would be really beneficial for society. Because, okay, let's say, because then the other thing is most people, once they've gone bad, they don't ever think that that they can be rehabilitated, or that any remorse or changes and stuff that they do are usually recommended by prosecutors, judges, people within the criminal justice system, and there is no accountability to the victim or society in general, because the person may be guilty of a heinous crime, totally heinous crime, and the whole community may think that it's this person, that the perpetrator of this heinous act is deserving of death or whatever, but just because there's a few people that feel that much pain, that doesn't necessarily give them a free license to seek retribution. And like I said, I even question some of God's laws, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. I think Jesus said that all that's going to do is leave the whole world blind and toothless. So I don't know, from I guess so Christians would kind of be digging on that, but they're often the most, or sometimes they're the most extreme, in thinking that life must be repaid with life. So I don't know, this is a big philosophical discussion problem. But I don't think, the more I study about it, there are no redeeming qualities about public or capital punishment. So yeah, I think embarrassment, good record keeping, and if the community thinks that this criminal has truly changed and become a productive member of the community, I think that's who gives that's who decides who is rehabilitated and who is not. So just because a person spends X amount of years in prison, that doesn't mean that they're going to be rehabilitated, and actually the chances of recidivism, repeat offending, actually goes up. The more people hang around with criminals, the more they tend to act like criminals. So yeah, so we need to get the we need to get rid of those prisons. We need to get those people off death row. There is no humane way to kill. And like I said, it just seems really backward to me to think that if we take another life and throw that away, and the potential that it holds, just throw that away because of some behavior which may not entirely be it's not a conscious choice. I mean, let's face it, folks, we just don't wake up in the morning, find that our milk is sour and our cornflakes are stale and there's no sugar to put on them, that we just decide, you know what, I'm just going to go out and start raping people today. You know, there's reasons for, you know, desiring that kind of behavior, and like I say, abuse, and the criminal is just as much a victim as the victim of the crime that the criminal perpetrates. So, I mean, it took me a long time to maybe like realize that and get over wanting to fucking torture the motherfucker until you know, I pleaded for me to end his miserable life. But yeah, I grew out of that, you know, so I don't see the state maintaining its monopoly on the application of force, confinement of certain individuals for certain acts or crimes or whatever. I just don't see it as a essential component to a productive human society. You know, and you know, many ancient peoples, you know, I don't think there's any society prior to this that was as, for being a free state, had so many prisoners, you know. We got the most prisoners per capita of any nation in the world. The free to stroll their solitary cell as much as they like, sheeple of the socialist states of America. But yeah, so what is it that we could do for, like I said, so, you know, there are many different things that we can maybe do to the criminal to try to get their voluntary cooperation in really addressing the problem. You know, not just some bullshit that some psychologist, which, you know, has his own issues, is recommending to the court, you know, or whatever, because, you know, he's an expert on sexual crimes and, you know, the impetuous and motivator for these seemingly bizarre acts. I mean, it's not unheard of in the animal community, especially among dolphins and porpoises and shit. I don't know, dogs are pretty hip to it too, you know, because if they're horny and they see a female, they go try to fuck it, you know. And there's nothing in nature that prevents them from doing that, other than the intended participant, of course, has free will, and they're able to, you know, defend themselves without, any Mother Nature doesn't have to give them authorization to protect themselves. That's just like the rule of the jungle. And there are no, there's, like I said, there's no preferences, just because you're a, mammal, does that entitle you to extra benefits that a fish or a reptile is entitled to, I'm just saying to, access to basic elements of life, air, water, a little piece of ground to call your own. So I mean, we just really need to change our thinking, because when we start looking at the criminal as being probably, I'm not saying it is 100% or whatever, but it's probably the victim of, abuse, a bad upbringing, blah, 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 blah. And they weren't provided with the positive tools to turn that situation into a growing experience, a lesson that needed to be learned or experienced or whatever. And, it trips them up, But anyway, almost getting tired, man. I think I almost need to maybe pull it over and get out and walk around the car or something, because most auto accidents happen within 15 miles of home. So, I'm all for pulling over and taking a nap if I don't feel like I can drive. But anyway, what do you think about that? What kind of things could the DRO do to aid the community? And like I said, both the criminal and the victim they should there should be some plain understanding amongst neighbors and community members that you're desirous of this deal. But anyway, I'm about to kill the battery on this thing, and this has been iMercury, Chris McCraw, with iMercury Multimedia Group, a wholly owned subsidiary of Happy Camp Republic LLC, a resource-based economy being established in the rural mountains of Siskiyou County, state of Jefferson. Chris McCraw, iMercury, out! You have an awesome day. Bye-bye.